welcome back to another explainer. Today, we are stepping into a kitchen, but, not just any kitchen. We're going to dive head first into the whimsical, surprisingly structured, and just utterly beloved narrative of the tiger who came to tea. Now, if you're a parent, or honestly, even if you just remember the magic of your own childhood stories, you probably know the plot already. But today, we are going to completely deconstruct the actual text. We're going to see exactly how this timeless narrative is built, piece by piece, relying purely on the delightful source material. So let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this. I really want you to picture the most ordinary, mundane setting possible. There was a little girl called Sophie, right? And she was having a perfectly normal afternoon tea with her mummy in their kitchen. I mean, it's the absolute picture of domestic tranquility. But the genius of this story is how it takes that incredibly quiet, safe space and just completely upends it with the introduction of an absurd, wild, and incredibly hungry apex predator. The contrast is immediate, and it perfectly sets the stage for absolutely everything that follows. Section 1, an unexpected knock. And this brings us right to the inciting incident of our story. Suddenly, completely shattering the quiet of the tea time, there is a ring at the door. And this brilliantly illustrates a classic storytelling technique known as the rule of three. Before anyone even opens the door, Sophie's mummy goes through a very precise, very logical deduction based on their daily schedule. It can't be the milkman because, well, he already came this morning. It can't be the boy from the grocer because today just isn't his delivery day. And it certainly can't be Daddy because he's got his key. So they've exhausted literally all logical possibilities, which leaves them with no choice but to open the door and face the completely illogical. The expectation is a quiet tea. The reality? Sophie opens the door to find a big, furry, stripy tiger standing right there on the doorstep. But what makes this story so uniquely charming is exactly how the characters react. There is absolutely zero panic. They don't scream. They don't run away. Instead, they treat this completely surreal intrusion with the utmost unpanicked British politeness. The juxtaposition between the terrifying reality of a tiger and their incredibly calm reaction, well, that's the main engine driving the comedy of this entire book. And you know what? The tiger plays right into this dynamic. He doesn't roar, he doesn't attack anyone. Instead, he just says, "Excuse me, but I'm very hungry. Do you think I could have tea with you?" It's ridiculously polite. This introduction completely disarms the entire situation. I mean, he asks for permission. It totally neutralizes any perceived threat and establishes this wonderfully comedic, almost absurd tone for the rest of the narrative. Moving on to Section 2, the ultimate hungry guest. So, following those rules of absolute politeness, Sophie's mummy simply replies, "Of course, come in." Let's move to and see how this builds once the tiger actually sits at the table, because I gotta tell you, his appetite is truly something to behold. Step 1. He's offered a sandwich, right? Standard tea fare, but he takes all the sandwiches on the plate and swallows them in one massive mouthful. Still hungry, he's offered buns, and he just eats all of those too. Step 2. He moves on to devour all the biscuits and all the cake until the table is just completely bare. And then step 3, the escalation goes way beyond the table. He systematically sweeps the entire kitchen, eating all the supper cooking in the saucepans, all the food in the fridge, and every single packet and tin in the cupboard. He literally clears them out of all solid food. But wait, the tiger's commitment to hydration is just as extreme. He didn't just stop at the food. When Sophie's mummy asks if he'd like a drink, he systematically drains every single liquid in the house. He drinks all the milk in the jug, he drinks all the tea in the teapot, he chugs all the orange juice, he even downs all of Daddy's beer. But the absolute crowning moment of this absurd escalation is that he drinks all the water in the tap. Think about that for a second. He doesn't just drink from the tap. The narrative specifically tells us he drank all the water in the tap, completely draining the home's very infrastructure dry. And after unleashing this path of absolute, systematic culinary devastation upon this quiet home, how on earth does our guest leave? Well, he says, "Thank you for my nice tea. I think I better go now." The stark contrast between a totally emptied, ransacked kitchen and the tiger's incredibly mild, polite, and casual departure is just brilliant. And with that, he simply goes. Which leads us right into Section 3, the empty house. So now the magical creature has left the building, and the family is suddenly jolted right back to reality, basically standing in the ruins of their pantry. And this is where the story brilliantly grounds the surreal magic in incredibly mundane domestic reality. We get two very distinct problems here. Mummy's problem is highly practical. She says, I don't know what to do. I've got nothing for Daddy's supper. Remember, the tiger literally ate the supper right out of the saucepans. Sophie, meanwhile, has a completely different problem. She finds she cannot have her bath. Why? Because the tiger drank all the water in the tap. It's such a funny, totally logical consequence of an otherwise completely illogical event. And right into this scene of domestic chaos, the final member of the family arrives. Sophie's daddy comes home. Sophie and her mummy immediately tell him everything. They explain how the tiger had eaten all the food and drunk all the drink. Now, you would fully expect a normal adult to express disbelief or anger, or maybe at least some utter confusion. But this story flat out refuses to break its calm tone. Section 4. A perfect resolution. Instead of panicking over the empty house in this wild story of a giant animal, Daddy pivots instantly to a solution. So the crucial point is how this potential disaster is seamlessly flipped into a magical, cozy adventure. He says he has a very good idea. Step 1, they put on their coats and go out into the dark. Step 2, the story gives us this wonderful imagery of the family walking down the road, with all the street lamps lit and the cars with their lights on, basically turning a ruined evening into this really special nighttime excursion. And finally, step 3, they go to a cafe and have a lovely supper consisting of absolute childhood favorites: sausages, chips, and ice cream. Daddy's calm acceptance completely turns the tiger's destruction into basically the best night ever. Of course, the next morning, order must be restored. Sophie and our mummy go shopping to restock their completely devastated kitchen. They buy lots more things to eat. But they add one very special, highly optimistic item to their grocery list: a very big tin of tiger food. They buy it just in case the tiger should ever come to tea again. Now, the narrator tells us at the very end of the book that the tiger never did come back. So we really have to ask ourselves, why buy the tiger food? Well, it's a testament to the enduring, hopeful nature of childhood imagination. They're deliberately leaving the door open for magic. Even though the magical moment has officially passed, they are absolutely prepared to welcome it back with open arms and, a very big tin of food. And that charming blend of the mundane and the magical is exactly what makes this simple story an absolute, enduring masterpiece. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time as we visually unpack our next fascinating topic.